Today, I'm going to be making something I've never made before, I've never even tasted it before, and that is Cowboy Candy. So join me right after this, and we're going to learn how to make it. Cowboy Candy is basically jalapenos that have been candied. So sugar, there's some vinegar in there, and obviously the jalapenos, and there's a few other ingredients. So the first thing we need to do is prepare our jalapenos. I've got quite a few here, as you can see. I haven't weighed them just yet. I'm hoping I have about 2 or 3 pounds. What I need to do is cut these into little rings. I'm not going to do this with a knife. I'm going to take this and get this chopped up inside my food processor. I'll be right back with you in just a couple of seconds. We're back, and wow, that was easy. I definitely want to be doing that again. The machine I use just has a basic mandolin, and it just slices up the peppers. So beautifully sliced up peppers in about 5 minutes. So the peppers are prepared. Let's talk about some of the other ingredients we have here. I'm following a recipe online because, like I said, I've never done this before, and I want to do it just the way that it's recommended online first, and I might make adaptations later on, or maybe even use a hotter pepper in future. So we'll see. For now, I'm just going to stick to the basic recipe. The recipe, I will link it down below in the description so you can go and have a look at all the ingredients, but I'll just go through a few of them. We've got celery seed, we have turmeric, we have some cayenne powder, and quite a lot of sugar, and some cider vinegar. And of course, we have our peppers. This recipe is something where we're actually going to be doing some cooking with these peppers. Always be careful when cooking with peppers because it does release quite a bit of the capsaicin that's inside the peppers. Basically, it just aerates the stuff that is really hot and spicy inside the pepper. So just be really careful. Try and ventilate the area where you are. We're going to need a big pot like this, and that's for what happens after we've actually cooked up this recipe. We're going to be doing a bit of canning. I'm not the expert on canning. I have done it in the past. I've done it quite successfully, but I'm not the expert in it. I'm going to be doing a few more recipes in the future where I will be canning. I'll try and give you the basics of what to do, so just follow along with what I'm doing. If you copy what I'm doing, you should be all right, but do your own research, please. So I've measured my peppers, and we have just over the amount that we need for this recipe, so I won't have to make too many adjustments. The recipe calls for 3 pounds of fresh peppers. Try and make sure they're as fresh as they can be, must be firm, and obviously have no blemishes, things like that. You want to have nice peppers for this because you want it to last a long time. You don't want them to ruin all the other peppers. One other thing we're going to need is ground garlic. The first thing we need to do is boil up the vinegar, the sugar, and all these other dry ingredients. We're going to be boiling that up and joining it up together. Now we just need to bring this to a boil and let it boil or simmer for about 5 minutes. I just realized I'm going to need a bigger pot, so I've got this one ready because you need a pot that's going to be able to take the syrup as well as the 3 pounds of peppers that we're putting in. Once it starts boiling, you want to bring the temperature down so that it starts simmering rather than boiling. And you want to let it simmer away for about 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes, you're going to be adding in your peppers. Do this carefully. This is boiling hot sugar. It will burn, so do not let it splash or anything like that. Be very careful. Wow, the smells. I'm used to cooking very, very spicy peppers, and I'm quite used to this, but if you're not used to this, This will be a bit of a shock to the senses. Smells amazing though, it really does. It's just started simmering, so we're going to bring the temperature down. And we're timing 4 minutes. So there we go, that's 4 minutes, and we need to stop this, and we're going to start bottling it up. You want to get your jars that you should have nice and clean and sterilized, and we're going to start putting the peppers in here. I would recommend getting yourself one of these. If you're going to be doing these sort of sauces in future, these things are invaluable. It just helps you not spill everywhere, and especially on the edges of the jar, you don't have to then have so much to clean up. So this just sits on top of the jar, and we can start transferring the peppers across. You want to use a slotted spoon for this because you're trying not to get the sugar inside there just yet. So you want this about a 1/4 inch from the top of the jar. So that's the first one done. I'm just going to finish these off and I'll get right back to you and we'll do the next step. So I'm quite surprised that 3 pounds of peppers filled only 2 of these small jars. So that was interesting. I actually had prepared 4 jars and 2 extra big ones as well, but I only needed 2. So what you want to do next is you want to get the syrup back on the boil, a rolling boil for about 6 minutes. So we're going to time 6 minutes, and then we'll be able to finish this off. That's been 6 minutes now, and it's time for us to switch off the plate. And what we're going to do now is transfer some of the syrup into the jars. You want to again be very careful. This is seriously hot. Use a ladle. That'll be the easiest way to do this. What you want to do when you've done this, just to make sure there's no air pockets, use a stick. In the recipe itself, it actually recommends a cooking chopstick, whatever that is. But you just want to get rid of the air that's in there, make sure there's no air pockets. And then you want to wipe off the edges because this is some sticky stuff. And with canning, you want to make sure that the lip of this is clean so that you can get a nice tight seal. And again, be careful, it is bloody hot. Once you've done that, you want to take a new lid, so a new one of these. If you have a look down there, these are the inner lids of these. Make sure you have a new one. Don't reuse these because I think they're only for one-time use. And when you're canning, it's just important to make sure that you're doing everything the right way. So we're going to tighten that on, finger tight. And same one here. So this here, we can see we got a whole lot left. This is going to go into another jar, and I'm going to be able to use that for my barbecues when I'm making meat marinades or straight onto the meat. I think this is going to be fantastic. So I don't have a canning system here, but what I do have is a big old pot, and we're going to do an immersion canning, which is basically having the jars just below the surface of the water, and it's going to cause this to create a nice seal. At the bottom of the pot, I'd recommend putting a little cloth. You just don't want these jars sitting directly on the base of the pot. So I'm just going to use an old muslin cloth and place that in the bottom of the pot. We're going to get the jars in there. So we're just going to pour a little bit more water in here so it covers the lid by a few centimeters. The way the canning works is you have a jar like this, which has this top like this. That little red ring is a rubber seal, and that basically is going to seal against the glass that's over here. When you put this screwed on, you don't want to screw it on tight. So what's going to happen is the heat in here is going to expand the air, any air that's inside this jar, and it's going to push that air outside of the jar. When we take the jars out and we let them cool down, what's going to happen is everything in here is going to cool down and contract, and it'll actually create a vacuum seal. This lid will pop down, and what will happen is that creates a nice seal. So here's a jar that I've done this with before. If we have a look on the top, we can see that there's a lid on it, and this is firmly pushed down. It has created a seal, a vacuum seal, and it's like the day that I put it in there. This is from last year, August, and this will be absolutely perfect if I opened this up and wanted to eat any of it. I recommend doing your own research around this. It's quite an interesting topic, actually, and I might do more about this in the future. But canning it's an interesting way to prepare your food, an interesting way to preserve your food. So we're going to get this water to a boil. Once it's boiling, we're going to set a timer for about 10 minutes if you've got half-pint jars and 15 minutes if you've got bigger jars. You're going to then let it have a rolling boil for that 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and we're going to switch everything off. Take the jars out, you're going to leave them for 24 hours, and at that point you're going to have perfectly sealed jars. You have to have a little bit more patience, waiting for 2 weeks before you open them up. So I'll come back to you in 2 weeks' time and we'll see how these turn out. Finally, it's time to open these up. I've been waiting quite a while. I meant to open these up 2 weeks after I made them, but I ended up getting a bit busy with work and I wasn't able to do it until today. So this has been sitting on my shelf. I didn't want to open it up until I could do it in the video. So we're going to get to do it today. So here we go. Here's our canned Cowboy Candy. And you can see the tops here nicely dented in. I can actually take these lids off now and it won't be a problem because that lid is firmly on there. Do the same thing on this one. You really don't need to keep these on. So there's our 2 canned jalapeno candies. And then before I open these, let's talk a little bit about this stuff. I had 3 jars of this, and I say had because I've been getting into this one over here. You can see it's almost finished. And this stuff is just amazing. If this Cowboy Candy is as good as this, I'll be a happy man. I use this on ribs. I used it on chops, chicken wings even. Basted some chicken with it as well. It is just so good. Really tasty. But anyway, enough of that. Time to taste our Cowboy Candy. I'm going to leave this one sealed up nicely. And we're going to open up this one here. So to open these lids, you need to break the seal a little bit. So I'm just using a flat screwdriver. We can see that popped open nicely. And if we have a look in there, we can see the candy looking really good. And let's give this a bit of a taste. Let's use a bowl here to put some in. Ooh. Let me just close this up again. I should probably get a plastic lid for this, but for the moment I'm just going to cover it back up like that. I've never actually had Cowboy Candy before, so I don't really know what to compare this to. I'm just hoping it tastes good, and I'll be happy with that. So, let's give it a taste. It's just spicy candy. My jalapenos this year were quite spicy, so this has actually got a little bit of spice to it. A bit of a kick, but it tastes really good. Wow. Difficult to know what to compare it to. Oh, it's perfect. It really tastes good. Definitely want to make that again. If not for this alone as a good base for your barbecues, the stuff's great. I think this will go amazing on salads, on sandwiches, or just eating just like this. What will be interesting is trying hotter peppers with the same process. It'll be quite an interesting experiment, so definitely going to give that a try next year. I don't have any more really hot peppers left from this year, but definitely one for the list for next year. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you're going to be making this recipe for yourself. It really is fun and very tasty. Please, if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you do. There's going to be loads more videos like this and lots of other quite interesting things happening, especially next year. I've got a lot planned. But thank you again for watching, and we'll see you again on the next video. Bye-bye for now.